Well, good afternoon again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. And yes, we'll get to the JRC here in a moment, but before we do, the disclaimers and the trigger warnings. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links will be right there in the description box for you. So if you want to deep dive into the JRC, Agape Boarding School, or any place like it, you will certainly be able to do so. Trigger warning. This channel is marked not for kids for a reason. First off, I do use profanity, and also we do talk on subjects like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, where you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, 16 or younger, and they are watching this, parental supervision is very much advised. Alright, we're not going through this whole 10-page comment thing, but I will say it is actually nice for once that overall, I don't appeal to authority argumentative bullshit, just to be open and honest. But I do love the fact that for once, it's someone against the JRC who is flexing their own learning and expertise, as opposed to someone, doing that and supporting torture. It's a nice change. And yeah, and it's also nice to see that we have someone from our side who is doing things like 10-page replies. Usually it's the JRC and their supporters, and it's usually so, infected with word salad that by the time I finish those documents, I feel like I would like to be put out to pasture just so I never have to do that again. So, just wanted to say that. Now, I'm not going to say the name. It's public. They left their names out there. But I'm not going to say the name. But they do come from Boston College Law School. And this individual says, I submit this comment in response to the rule proposed by the Food and Drug Administration banning the use of electric stimulation devices for the treatment of people with aggressive behavior or self-injurious behavior. The rule will end the use of ESDs at the Judge Rotenberg Center, the only institution still employing the outdated, clinically unsupported ESD treatment regimen. As a first-year law student studying Massachusetts, where the Judge Rotenberg Center operates, I look forward to this rule's final promulgation. Oh my God, sorry people, I can't talk today. Promulgation. Cherishing many close personal connections with intellectually disabled individuals compels me to advocate against this painful, degrading treatment that should have ended long ago. I am wholeheartedly in support of this rule, but I take issue with the time allowed for a transition away from ESD's inpatient treatment. For the reasons below, I encourage the FDA to consider imposing the accelerated transition period shorter than 180 days. So, we are actually going to read through some of that, but not all of it. We're not going through the whole 10 pages. But to take a look at why she feels the time should be accelerated and it be faster than 180 days for the folks to get weaned off the device. So, on March 26, 2024, the Food and Drug Administration released a notice of proposed rulemaking under the title Banned Devices Proposal to Ban Electrical Stimulation Devices for Self-Injurious or Aggressive Behavior. In 2020, the FDA issued a final rule enacting this ban, but the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia vacating it, finding that the FDA lacked the authority to ban some but not all uses of a product. After Congress amended the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, FD&C, to give the FDA authority to enact this ban, the FDA again issued the present proposed rulemaking. The rule proposes to ban the use of electrical stimulation devices for treating self-injurious and aggressive behavior. After a survey of the literature updated in the interim between 2020 and 2024, the FDA determined that ESDs pose an unreasonable and substantial risk of illness or injury that cannot be corrected or eliminated by labeling. And by the way, before we get to the study, well, you guys said that there was no studies, but this is one from 2019 from Walden University, where we did a clinical study. Let me remind y'all, no you didn't. Walden University is a primarily online school. They have a singular, very small campus that is pretty much their majority for the offices of individuals who run said online university. It also says on Walden EDU's own website that they do not actually facilitate themselves the conducting of clinical studies, and that is usually done and completed by students on their own, and they usually do not endorse what those findings are because, again, it's the student doing that on their own time. So, not really worth the paper that it was written on. Sorry, not sorry. Seriously. Let me go ahead and continue. Sorry about that, folks. I emphatically support this rule and its factual findings, yet the primary issue requiring attention is the 180 days of transition time allowed for the faculties to adjust treatment plans for the patients whose treatment currently involves ESDs. I urge the FDA to consider the following 3 considerations, which will be expounded upon below. Which we won't go into that, but let's read the 3 reasons real quick. The FDA has determined that ESDs threaten physical and mental health. Delaying their ban for any longer than necessary will subject vulnerable individuals to further risk and harm. That I got to agree with. I've said all along that if a ban goes through, it needs to be banned immediately. Yes, for everyone. Yes, no matter what's happening during that time period. Ban goes through, everybody is taken off the device. Okay? That ban goes through, I don't want those human beings spending a single second longer on that device. I want it off of them that very second. Anything else is just prolonging the trauma onto those kids. Now, that might be something that JRC and their staff may not be troubled by, but those of us out here in the real world who are sane and care about other human beings, yeah, no, they need to come off immediately. No ifs, ands, or buts. These are not individuals who are being weaned off of strong medications, in which case, yes, you might need slow time to slowly wean them off, because otherwise it could be a situation that can end up being very, very fatal. This is not one of those situations. I completely agree with that train of thought. Number 2, the Judge Rotenberg Center has a history of mistreatment and unwanted use of ESD devices, and it is in the public interest that this use ceases immediately. The JRC also has a vindictive streak. They hate whistleblowers most of all. So if you think that during that time period they're going to be more lenient in using that device, I'm going to say that in actuality they will probably try to use that device more than they ever did, as much as they humanly can, before finally being forced to take them off those kids. That time period between the ban coming down and that 180 days is going to be nothing short than of those poor kids underneath it are going to be living in the ninth circle of Dante's hell for that full 180 days time period. I guarantee that. Just say. But you can't know that for a fact. Go to Autistic massive archive. It's linked there in the description box. It should give you a pretty good indication as to why I actually just made that statement with my full chest. Alright, let's get to number 3. There are variable alternatives available to the JRC for an accelerated transition away from using ESDs to treat self-injurious or aggressive behavior. So there is something that this person is suggesting that they would be able to use to help wean the person off without forcing them to be on the device any longer. Now, that would be interesting to dig and see what that is. So I'll have to mark this particular video as a reminder later on to myself to go digging, but for right now, since we're not going to be reading this whole thing here, we're going to go ahead and close out. But if you would like to read the fullness of this comment, I will make sure that this PDF does get linked into the description box for you so you can pull it up and finish it if you would like. And we're going to close out. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, if you could, you know the drill. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, don't forget the comments, double check the notifications, make sure that bell is still clicked on. That way you can make sure to receive notifications on any series we have going on this channel. I appreciate your time, and as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all in a little bit. Bye-bye, everyone.